man. Don't care what they yarning about me in particular. Call me. Out here on the road chasing my dream because I know I'm chasing for me. Ololola de mango my love. Orokoto idisho my love. If you want to let Jack come alone, no dey find anybody na money I want. No dey hear wetin people dey talk. Want to get a shakeleti love.
Wicked and never. One day things will get better. We got me found in Ghana, America and Jamaica. I they count my paper. I don't make credit to haters. Yeah, you want me on it. You know say me love you only. Me love how you wine for me. You kill me when you call me. My heart desire. You are the only one I require. Forever. You know say I don't go fit take. I need that. Make them talk. I don't go bother. If it no be you, then my paper. Oh yeah, Mahama paper. Oh yeah, frankly paper. Inshallah. Let them alone, 'cause them never love. What they say, don't be yaro.
Ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, shall we remain standing as we welcome His Excellency? Shall we welcome him? He's in the room with a thunderous applause. Thank you very much. Hello. Thank you, media. Would like to officially get started. Thank you.
My brain be bola. I go protect you like Doja.
I can see that we are all very excited, but I'll crave your indulgence, media, if we can now move to the back so that we can get started. Thank you, media. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. All right, I think we can get started since His Excellency is here. My name is A.C. Asante-Entry. I am a lecturer at the School of Communication Studies, and I will be your MC for this afternoon's special program. On behalf of our Chancellor, Dr. Paul Finn, and the University Management, it is my singular honor to welcome His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, a former president and the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, his running mate, Dr. Nana Opoku-Agyeman, and the entire delegation from the National Democratic Congress, our special invited guests, faculty, staff, students, the media, and everyone to today's special public lecture. Without wasting much time, I would like to invite our university chaplain, Reverend Yawson, to give us the opening prayer. Shall we welcome him with an applause?
Shall we bow down our heads for the opening prayer? How beautiful, how good, and how pleasant it is for brethren and the people and the nation to come together in unity. There the Lord commands his blessing. Father, we thank you for our nation, Ghana. Thank you for the leadership that you have given unto us. Thank you for academia, and thank you for Wisconsin International University and the leadership. Thank you for this partnership that we have forged to bring, oh God, political leaders and academia, students, and the general public together to have this wonderful program together to discuss how to move our country forward. We thank you, Jehovah, that because of this unity, you have protected this country and you have formed a wedge of protection around us, and we have enjoyed your peace in this unity. As we, oh God, advance in this program, we ask that let, oh God, your presence be here. Lead us in your wisdom, lead us in your direction. Let this meeting become a success, and by the time we finish, may all, oh God, say, indeed, the Lord has been good unto us. We thank you, we bless you, in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Yawson. At this juncture, I would like to invite up here the Acting Dean of the School of Communication Studies, Mrs. Baba Kofi, to give us the welcome address and the purpose of gathering. Shall we welcome her?
Your Excellency, John Dramani Mahama, former President of the Republic of Ghana and flag bearer, National Democratic Congress. Justice Doche, the University Board, the University Council, Professor Obeng Mreku, President, Wisconsin International University College, Dr. Lawrence Kanai, our Vice President, Mr. Joel Aiden Aqua, Registrar, Deans, HODs, faculty, staff, students, alumni, our media friends, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. Your Excellency, it was in 2012, and it was a very similar setting. You were visiting the then School of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana. I was a student at the time. I remember our dean, Auntie Maggie, asked that I support with the organization before your coming. So earlier that morning, I had to scout around and get fresh flowers to put on a table where you were going to sit behind, with the help of our MC sitting here. After scouting and getting the fresh flowers, your security detail came in and said, "What's in the flowers?" And they pushed their hands around it and said, "No, we need to take it out." And I was like, oh, you have no idea how I struggled to get these flowers. But more importantly, that day, the account of your journey from Northern Ghana to study communication and the roadmap to politics and thereafter was so inspiring for us who were upcoming communication person. But today, I welcome you to the School of Communication Studies at Wisconsin International University College. And today there are no flowers. But they are very keen minds, like mine in 2012, who are looking forward to this interaction. Today marks a very significant moment as we honor you as former president and flag bearer, and you will be interacting with our students and our faculty, as well as sharing your perspectives on issues and concerns that are important to the youth of today. This event is a strategic one and a demonstration of our commitment to providing our students with the opportunity to engage with persons in the field of politics and communication, especially in this election year. We are looking forward to engaging other political players to continue these very relevant conversations throughout this year. Once again, Your Excellency, you are most welcome. Permit me to share a brief overview of our school. So the School of Communication Studies is a relatively young school, was established in 2015. We are currently running the program both on Accra and Kumasi campuses. Our school's premier dean was Professor Kwame Kakari, sitting right in front here, who is today a faculty member. And at the time, Ambassador Cabral Bleyami here was our head of department. For 9 years now, the school has served 461 students. We have about 249 alumni, some of whom are here. I'm very proud of them. And over 200 current students. We have a faculty and staff strength of 17, and we are running a degree and diploma programs in 3 streams. So we have our day, we have our evening, and we have our weekend. Our overarching goal is to prepare students for careers in media and communication industry through practical approaches to teaching and learning. We offer several courses in PR and advertising, in journalism, in digital communication, in multimedia production, in political health and development communications, among several others. Currently, the school is finalizing a program to teach local language use in journalism across the country, using selected Ghanaian languages popularly used in the media. This is an initiative in recognition of ethical challenges in the practice of journalism in some local language-driven media organizations, as well as appropriate journalistic standards based on communication theory and ethics. We are hoping to roll this out this year. We also recognize the unparalleled role of AI tools in communication today. We appreciate the use of these tools by our students here and elsewhere, especially in the academic work. As a school, we have begun serious discussions on the best approach to inculcating AI in our academic programs in a manner that enhances our students' learning and cognitive abilities. And we realize that the possibilities are endless. As a school, we also aim at becoming a torchbearer in thought leadership programs that will bring industry and academia together to exchange knowledge and expertise. As part of this strategy, the school has instituted a seminar series. So we started this seminar series late in 2016, and we've so far hosted about 7 events, and I'm going to just mention them. In 2016, in October, we had Dr. Kwame Boafo share a public lecture on the challenges of communication, education, and training in Africa today. On 15th March 2017, Mr. Kweku Sechu Ado, the then CEO of Telecoms Chamber, gave us facilitated a seminar on the topic From Homo sapien to Phono sapien, how a chip changed the world. In April 2017, we had Mr. Gehat Mensah also facilitate another title From Ignorance to Commitment, the Science of Stakeholder Management. Then again in 2017, we had Dr. Kojo Asante, Senior Research Fellow at CDD, and Mr. Kofi Bentel also facilitating a seminar on the Office of the Special Prosecutor, All You Need to Know. We had another Women in Ghanaian Media on March 21st, 2018, facilitated by Dr. Sarah Akrofi-Kwaku, who is a lecturer at the Department of Information and Communication Studies at the University of Ghana. Last 4 years, we organized a panel discussion on political communication in the COVID-19 era, strategies and innovations for election 2020. Our panelists were Dr. H.A. Kanku, who is a political communication expert. We invited Mr. Yao Boabeng Asamoah. We invited Mr. Sami Jemfi. And Madame Juliet Amwa, Executive Director of Pen Plus Bites. Unfortunately, at the last minute, Mr. Jamefi had to be represented by Mr. Godwin Gunn. But it was a very interesting conversation. The last series, or the last seminar we held was in Kumasi, on our Kumasi campus, where Professor Kwame Ejekum from the Department of Linguistics from the University of Ghana, Legon, spoke on the role of traditional communicative ethics in Ghanaian media. Your Excellency, these seminars have proven to be engaging, inspiring, and mind-opening, but it has not always been academics. We have also instituted a social issues platform to discuss and support students' social lives, which is a huge contribution, if you would agree with me, to the academic success. This platform we have named Red Conversations. Red Conversations is an event organized yearly in commemoration of Chocolate Day. Last year, the event theme was Love, Sex, and Matters Arising, which was a frank discussion inspired by the loss of one of our brilliant students to unsafe abortion. This year's theme was My Mind and Matters of the Heart, which focused on mental health. Your Excellency, as you can see, we have a lot going on at the School of Communication Studies, but I have an incredible team who are running with this vision, and I would want to acknowledge them briefly. So first of all, Professor Kwame Kakari, my father, in whom I am well pleased. I want us to give a round of applause to him. He is such an amazing young man. Dr. Shika Jacobs-Kwashi, can we just see your hand? Mr. Nana Duncan, Mr. Kofi Yeboah, who is currently the GA Secretary, Mr. Teikecha, the Mr. Teikecha, Mr. Fidel Tete, Dr. Leaford Amiyebo, Mr. Christopher Ajonyo, Mr. David Yaboy Tete, Mr. Charles Ayiku, Mr. Samuel Adani, Madame Esi Asantientri, who is emceeing today, Mr. Andy Kwao, Madame Esme Amwa Ewa, who is our studio manager, and Madame Rebecca Kumi, who is our faculty officer. Today, as we welcome a former president and flag bearer to our campus, we are continuing in the tradition of fostering dialogue and engagement around important issues facing our society. I am confident that today's event will be a valuable and enriching experience for all who are in attendance. I encourage you to actively participate in the discussions and engage with our distinguished guests as we explore the issues that matter most to the youth of today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I look forward to a stimulating and insightful dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our acting dean. Indeed, as she said, I know there are a lot of party people here, but today is not a political rally. As she said, it's an academic exercise, because one of the things that we pride ourselves in at the School of Communication Studies here at Wisconsin International University College is our classroom, out of classroom experience. And for us at the school, we're not just excited to host a former president, but he's also a communications person. And that tells us that if our students try very high, they can also aspire and climb up to that high office. So, Your Excellency, we are really excited to have you. Before we go on, I would like to introduce to your delegation the university officials here. And I would like to introduce our Council Chair, Justice Isaac Doche. Our President is here, Professor Obing Mreku. Our Vice President, Dr. Lawrence Kanai, is here. Next to him is our Registrar, Mr. Joel Aiden Aqua. Our Dean of Students, Madame Loretta Tete. We also have somewhere our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Jacob Finn. Jake, where are you? I know he's somewhere here. We also have the deans of our various faculties. Wisconsin International University College is a full 360 degrees university, and we offer programs in the school, at the School of Nursing and Midwifery. Our dean is here. The dean of the business school, School of Business Studies, the dean of the Faculty of Humanities. We have our dean faculty of law. We have our dean of the graduate school and our dean IT and technology. And we have a lot of our faculty and staff. And of course, our students. Can I hear you, students? Wonderful, wonderful. Let me also take this opportunity to also welcome some important people who have accompanied His Excellency to today's function. I want to once again welcome Professor Jainana Opoku-Agyeman. Madam, you're welcome. This woman is a trailblazer. So also with His Excellency's team, we have Honorable Julius Deborah, former Chief of Staff. We have Professor K. Danso-Boafo, who is the chairman of the NDC Social Democracy Think Tank and the 2024 NDC Manifesto Committee. That's a very powerful committee. We also have Professor George Oduro, former Pro-Vice Chancellor, University of Cape Coast. All right. We have Professor Lord Mensah, Associate Professor at the University of Ghana Business School, who is a member on the Committee of Finance and Economy, Dr. Nashiri Isahaku. Okay. We also have Miss Nancy Bampo Addo. We also have Mr. Julian Yao Kobina, Professor Benedicta Fosu Mensah. You're all very welcome. So at this time, we need to introduce the chairperson for this august occasion, and I would like to welcome my colleague at the School of Communication Studies, Dr. Shika Jacobs-Kwashi, to introduce our chairman for this afternoon's program. Let's welcome her with an applause.
Good evening, everybody. All protocols observed. The chairperson for this occasion became president of the Wisconsin International University, Ghana, from August 2017. Prior to his appointment as president, he was a visiting professor of law at the University of Cape Coast, where he also had a brief stint as acting dean of the Faculty of Law. In September 2021, the government appointed him as chairman of the Governing Council of the University of Cape Coast, after serving in a similar position from 2019 to 2021 at the University of Education, Winneba. Professor Miracle studied law at universities in 3 jurisdictions. First, at the University of Ghana, leading to the LLB honors degree. Further, at the University of Witwatersrand, South Africa, and graduated with an LLM degree. And later, at the University of Hanover, Germany, where he earned a Doctor of Laws degree. His teaching career, which began in Ghana, took him to Liberia, Nigeria, and later South Africa, until 2016, when he relocated to Ghana. Before relocating to Ghana, he had spent an extensive tour of duty as an academic at 3 universities in South Africa, namely University of Fort Hare, University of Venda, and the University of Limpopo. His academic leadership and management skills have been gained through his experience as head of department, founding member of a human rights research center, and dean of law faculties at these universities in South Africa and Ghana. Against an extensive teaching, research, and publication track record, he has a rich background in university management. Distinguished guests, faculty and staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairperson for this function, Professor Obeng Miracle. Thank you.
Chancellor of Wisconsin International University College, Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, Chairman of the University Council, Vice President of Wisconsin, Registrar, Deans, HODs, faculty, staff and students, friends from the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to everybody. It is with great pleasure and anticipation that I welcome you all to this special public lecture featuring our esteemed former President of Ghana, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. To those visiting our university campus for the first time, I say a big thank you for honoring our invitation and also to warmly welcome you to our beautiful Wisconsin campus. I hope that you have been pleasantly surprised at the vastness of our university. Wait until you enter our classrooms and various skills laboratories, and you will be much more amazed at the amount of work that has gone into nurturing our future leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, today marks a significant moment in our academic calendar as we have the privilege to engage with a statesman of great stature and experience. Before I proceed any further, I want to express the university management's profound appreciation to the former president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, for honoring our invitation. We are extremely privileged and honored to host you, sir. I have no doubt in my mind that you have honored our invitation because you recognize the invaluable contribution of the academia in the formulation of sound policies and strategies for any nation. Our gathering here today, ladies and gentlemen, should remind us of the indispensable link between academia and politics. The collaboration and interaction between these two realms are crucial for the advancement of our society. The academia provides the intellectual ambience, if you will, research and critical analysis needed to inform policies and decision-making, while politics translates these insights into action, shaping the developmental trajectory of a nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand today at the intersection of opportunity and responsibility, where the voices of our citizens converge with the aspirations of our nation's leaders. At Wisconsin International University College, Ghana, we recognize the importance of fostering dialogue and engagement between and among our political leaders and academics. It is my hope that this lecture will serve as a catalyst for deeper collaboration between academia and politics. Through open dialogue and exchange of ideas, we can foster a more informed and inclusive governance system that addresses the needs and aspirations of our people. Students and faculty members, I hope and believe that the insights shared by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama will not only enrich our understanding, but also inspire us to strive for excellence and actively participate in the affairs of our nation. Ladies and gentlemen, in these challenging times, it is imperative that we uphold our commitment to service and offer our expertise to contribute to the betterment of society. I urge technocrats and academics alike to heed the call to serve in government. Despite the hazards and challenges that may accompany such endeavors, our nation requires the expertise, innovation, and dedication you possess to navigate through complex issues and drive meaningful change. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope and expectation that this lecture serves as pivotal platform for interactive discourse, igniting pertinent conversations that will shape the trajectory of our nation's future. I want to urge each of you, esteemed students, for it is through informed engagement that we can hold our leaders to be accountable. Let us demand transparency, integrity, and commitment to the promises they do make, since it is from these normative values that trust in our political class is built. In conclusion, I commend the initiators of this event, which is the School of Communication Studies, and all of its collaborators for their dedication and vision in creating this platform for dialogue. Thank you. To other schools and faculties, and I think the challenge comes to our deans here and HODs, let us all take inspirations from the example set today by the School of Communication and strive to mount similar initiatives within our respective spheres of influence. On this note, His Excellency, I wish us all a very successful engagement. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. And he has really laid the foundation for today's program. We're all being called to be active participants in politics. You know, in Ghana, you would hear people say, politics is dirty, politics is not good. But my father, who is a retired political science lecturer, always said that we're all political animals. And I always say to people, I said, in your home, perhaps your dad is the president and your mom might be the vice president, or sometimes it's the other way around. And if you're a firstborn like myself, then you also are a politician because you have your followers, your siblings. And so we're all political animals or political beings, and we must take our politics seriously. Thank you very much. I would like to introduce a few other people who are here. I want to acknowledge the presence of Madame Elikplim Akurugu, the NDC parliamentary candidate for Dome Kwabenya. And today it's all about students. We also have our Student Representative Council right here. We have our SRC President, Hakeem Enyan. Steve, where are you, Hakeem? And his executives, and also executives of COMSA, the Communication Students Association. So I have a question for my communication students, those in my class, and if you can answer this, I will give you maybe 2 or 3 extra marks in the exams. So are you ready for the question? So what is the campaign slogan or theme for His Excellency's 2024 campaign? Can I have a hand? The campaign slogan or the theme. Can I have a hand up? Yes, I see David. David, can you come forward? I want to hear if you know it. Let's appreciate David. He's in level 400 and he's in the media relations class. I think there's a microphone in the aisle. Okay, shall we hear David?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear. The microphone is working. So David, what is the slogan?
It's the game changer 24-hour economy.
No. Building the Ghana we want. David, you missed the marks. I would have given you 5 marks. Building the Ghana we want. And for together, and for myself as a communications person. All right, thank you. From a comms perspective, it is a very interactive, it's engaging, building the Ghana we want together. It's a very nice, catchy slogan. But in a few minutes, we'll hear from His Excellency what it really means, particularly for us as young people who are the future leaders. And before His Excellency mounts the podium, it's my pleasure to welcome the youngest man on our faculty, one I describe as a colossus in media and comms in this country, Professor Kwame Kakari, to introduce His Excellency.
Good evening and welcome, His Excellency. Good evening and welcome, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, my sister. I still remember the contemporary stew I ate in your home. Mr. Chairman, our President, the Chairman of our Council, Deans, all faculty members, students, and all visitors to this program this evening. We welcome all of you. Indeed, it is a great personal honor to have the opportunity to introduce His Excellency, Mr. John Dramani Mahama, our former president. I have had the singular privilege to have known His Excellency over the years in a number of important circumstances. When he was a student at Legon, I got to know him first as a member of a political economic study group, then as a brilliant student in communication studies. Now, if our man was in a political education study group, at that time we didn't know he had such ambitions, but here he is now. Now also, when as a vice president of our country, he was launching his book, My First Coup d'etat, he invited me among a small circle of family, friends, and acquaintances to a special pre-publication reading in his home. Again, in 2011 or so, he honored an invitation by the Media Foundation for West Africa, which I headed, to participate in an anniversary of the repeal of the criminal libel law. One time, to His Excellency may remember, we met in flight when we were both coming from Freetown, Sierra Leone, and I went to greet him in his cabin. And then he introduced me to the staff of the airline that, oh, this is my teacher. He taught me all what I knew, and I told him, no, at least not the politics. In all these years, the most remarkable observation I have made of our former president is that the ultimate of national political ascendancy has not in any way diminished his personal traits as a humble man, an affable person who can make you feel at home in his company, and who can also make you laugh and relax. As president, he never lost his sense of tolerance to opposing viewpoints and never lost his cool against the irritations of unprofessional and insulting journalists. He is the first president of Ghana to have served in all levels of political office: Member of Parliament, Deputy Minister for Communication, Minister for Communication, Vice President and President of the Republic of Ghana, and His Excellency, if I'm not wrong, you also served in a district assembly. Yes. Indeed, His Excellency considers the combination of study of history, communications, and social psychology, courses he studies for his bachelor's and postgraduate degrees at the university, as having had a profound impact in shaping his views, thoughts, understanding of the human condition, and contributed significantly to making him the person he is today. As president, His Excellency made tremendous contributions to development in this country, in all sectors of the economy and in all sectors of national life. And well, once again, he's here contesting to lead this country, and let us hope that Ghanaians will remember all these. Former President Mahama is an avid reader and author. Over the course of his career, he has written for several newspapers and authored a number of publications. He has also published his first book, a memoir entitled My First Coup d'etat, which I referred to earlier. Apart from his love of reading and acquiring knowledge, I understand that former President Mahama is also a farmer, and he learned and got interest in farming from his father, who was once a minister in Nkrumah's government and who was a prominent rice farmer in the northern region of Ghana. Apart from serving as president, he also served as chairperson of ECOWAS. And he was elected chairperson of the African Union's high-level African Trade Committee. Former President Mahama was also a first co-chair of the United Nations Advocacy Group on the Sustainable Development Goals. He is currently the chairperson of the Tana Forum, a high-level forum on security in Africa, which has its headquarters in Ethiopia. And in that endeavor, we wish you a lot of success, because Africa needs peaceful leaders to help bring peace. Our former president has been conferred with a number of honorary degrees, honorary doctorate degrees from distinguished universities, including a number of universities in Nigeria, the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, and the Lyon Business School in France. President Mahama has been married for 30 years to Mrs. Lordina Mahama. He's still a young man at 63, energetic. And so you can bet that he can crisscross this country in 1,000,000 times campaigning to come back. Mr. President, we wish you a lot of goodwill and good luck. But let us, if you win the president, we want one more favor. Come back and talk to our school about the experiences in political communication. That is the least we can ask of you now. Ladies and gentlemen, the audience, please, this is our former president. He is going to give his presentation, his lecture. Let us pay keen attention because he's no ordinary speaker. He's our former president. He's also a candidate now for the 2024 elections. Let's pay keen attention and listen carefully and clearly to what he will say. I will plead with you, as the MC said, this is not a political rally. In fact, it's an extension of our classroom work. There should be no heckling, no booing, no indiscipline. We must give him all the necessary respect as our head of state, a former head of state, an elder statesman, and a wise man who wants to share his experiences with us. So, Mr. President, your audience, your speaker.
Mahama, run up by your work money. Mahama, organ number 2, Mahani, Sukuwadai, hospitals, Aquapapa, Sedanodeya,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jama Group, thank you. It's like a train. When it starts, it's very difficult to stop. But Prof, I can assure you, this has nothing to do with politics. It's a tradition that follows you wherever you go. In my days in Legon, I was in Commonwealth Hall. And so when the Vandals heard I was coming here, they came here with their Jama group. So it's nothing to do with politics. This is a Vandal tradition. Vandal mates, thank you very much. Let me stand on existing protocol so that I don't risk leaving anybody out. But I think we're all distinguished guests. But I'll single out my teacher because he introduced me. And like he said, he recounted how long we've known each other. And yes, it's true, I was a member of a political study cell in the university. We were
young radical students. And because as a young person, I was born into a CPP family, and I obviously had a left of center orientation. And so these were little political cells that made us study politics and socialism. And then again, I encountered Prof. in a very interesting way. He was lecturing at the School of Communication Studies, and I'd applied to be a student. And I was in Tamale at the time. I write about it in my book. I tried to get a flight that day to come back to Accra because the interview was the next day. Unfortunately, there were no flights like you have today. You just buy a ticket and fly. You had to go to the Air Force station and get some connection with a soldier to put you on the flight. Unfortunately, my connection didn't work, so the flight went and left me. It was the only flight. State transport had also taken off. You couldn't get tickets. They sell tickets to 4 people in the line. They say the ticket is finished. The rest of the tickets are sold under the table. We've come a long way in Ghana. And so I had to go to the barrier and pay a little something to the policemen to find me a vehicle going to Accra. And the only vehicle I got was one loaded with maize. And so we all had to go and sit on top of the maize. And it brought us all the way to Kintampo. From Kintampo, I got a bus that brought me to Kumasi. And then a state transport driver that I knew, I explained to him my predicament. There was no seat, but he made me sit on the stairs when you're climbing into the bus. So I sat in the corner there on the stairs. And I got to Accra. Late, the interviews had started. My name had been called. And Prof was on the interview panel. And so I got there a bit dusty, looking quite ragged. I managed to clean my face. And he said, "Oh, you've been called already." My heart just dropped. It was like, oh, there goes the opportunity. He said, "Okay, you go and sit down. We'll attend to everybody. When we finish, we'll call you." And so I went and sat outside, very forlornly. And eventually they called me. He was part of the panel that interviewed me. And I must admit, after the interview, he said, "You go home, you get a letter from us." And so I knew in my heart that I had been taken. And of course, when I came to the school, he was my teacher in journalism. And he made me learn how to type, because Prof made a rule that any homework he gave you or any exercise he gave you, he will not accept a handwritten work. And so you have to go and type. In those days, computers were in their infancy, so you had to go and get an actual typewriter and learn to type, you know. And so I know how to type because Professor Karikari made me type, and he's contributed to making me. Journalism was one of my favorite subjects, and because of that, afterwards I did my internship in Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, and then also taught part-time in the Ghana Institute of Journalism. And my flair for writing has come from what I learned in School of Communication Studies. But let me thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to get over with the boring part. I was asked to give a talk on our policy on education and how it links with job creation. And so I'm going to get rid of the boring part. I think after that, there will be an interactive session, and we'll be able to flesh out the issues more. So I'll read this prepared text, and then after that, we can have the opportunity to talk some more. I want to thank you for granting me the opportunity to deliver the maiden public lecture in your planned series of lectures organized by the School of Communication Studies of the Wisconsin University for flag bearers standing in the 2024 general elections. I'm particularly grateful to the management of Wisconsin International University College and the acting Dean School of Communication Studies of the college for offering me the platform to share perspectives of my vision on the youth within the context of education and job creation. This program is being held at a time of great national distress and economic crisis. Our economy is in tatters and on the verge of collapse. It has been mismanaged into unprecedented crises which have afflicted all of us with unbearable suffering and pain. The features of our economy in the last few years under this administration has been an astronomical public debt, which we are unable to pay, humiliating debt defaults, embarrassing credit rating downgrades, hyperinflation, a collapsed currency, widening budget deficits, and very painful cost of living crisis. Over 1.3 million of our compatriots, including pensioners, have had to endure extremely painful appropriation of their interest and principal payments under the so-called domestic debt exchange. This is a crisis which could have been entirely avoided if the caution of the opposition and civil society had been heeded in a timely manner. The extremely harsh effect of the economic mismanagement can be seen all round, as it has ravaged almost every sector of our country, and the education sector is one of the hardest hit. At the last reckoning, there were over 5,400 schools that exist under trees and in dilapidated structures at the basic level. Research by a coalition of civil society groups in the education sector shows that only 17 out of this number I just mentioned have been replaced since this government announced a program to do so in 2021. You should contrast this with the fact that between 2010 and 2016, the NDC government awarded a total of 2,936 schools under tree projects, out of which 2,031 were completed by the time we left office. As we speak, as many as 2.3 million pupils at the basic level do not have desks and must either sit on the bare floor or on cement blocks or on their stomachs during studies. This number represents 40% of the total number of children in basic schools. Over 1.2 million children of school-going age between 4 and 17 years are not in school. Out of this number, almost 1 million of them, to be precise, 942,427 children, are reported to have never attended school. And this is in the Population and Housing Census of 2021. So these are facts I'm reading out to you. For 4 straight years, textbooks have not been supplied to schools, and one can only wonder how teachers and students alike are coping. And this is after a change in curriculum. Textbooks have not been made available. For 6 consecutive terms, capitation grants have not been released to schools. It is important to stress that it is through these capitation grants that basic inputs at the primary level, like writing boards, etc., are provided. Attendance registers, among others. It is through these capitation grants that they are procured for the running of the schools. We're all familiar with the numerous demonstrations and strike actions, some of which are currently ongoing, embarked on by school feeding caterers over non-payment of monies due to them. In the last few months, suppliers of food for the Buffer Stock Company Limited, which in turn supplies senior high schools with food, have staged a sit-in strike at the premises of the company to demand millions of Ghana cedis that is owed to them. And recently there was a teacher who was, a headmaster who was explaining that they serve what is available. And so sometimes they have only rice. So rice water in the morning, rice in the afternoon, and mutu in the evening. And then when they have only maize, cocoa in the morning, banku in the afternoon, tonzafi in the evening. In addition to these, the erratic academic calendar at the senior high school level, inadequate infrastructure leading to overcrowding, insanitary conditions, intimidation and victimization of school heads and teachers and other stakeholders, and misguided policy making are some of the problems that exist in our educational sector today. At the tertiary level, we are also too aware of the severe accommodation shortages on campus and the astronomical rents and fees that students have to pay to secure accommodation as close to their institutions as possible. This is due to underinvestment in facilities on the various campuses, which GET Fund was designed to address. Non-payment of funds accruing to GET Fund and the collateralization of the fund by this government have hampered the investments that should otherwise have been made to address the problems I have just outlined. We believe that the ad hoc, haphazard, political motivated policy making and implementation and the short-sighted tinkering that have created these problems must give way to substantive thinking and offering that curate appropriate and visionary solutions to our educational challenges. My vision for the youth in respect of our education is to focus on their holistic development by balancing their intellect, which is their head, their character, which is their heart, and their skills, which is their hands. So it's heart, head, heart, and hands, the 3 H's. To this end, I will facilitate an educational system that does not only expand access to education. It's not only about access. So we'll facilitate a system that does not only expand access to education, but more importantly, that it indexes access expansion to quality and equity. And therefore, access, quality, and equity are the 3 key pillars that will drive our vision in education. In pursuit of this vision, my administration will promote and prioritize investment in education, particularly at the basic education level. I commit myself to strengthening basic level education because if the preschool and primary level of education that provide foundational learning opportunities are weak, performance at the secondary level will continue to be a challenge. The next NDC government will invest heavily in the construction and renovation of schools with particular focus on underserved and rural areas. We'll continue our program to remove schools under trees and provide furniture for children at the basic level. With regards to the e-blocks, in our effort to expand access to education, we'll revisit the initiative of Community Day Senior High Schools, which were popularly called the e-blocks. These schools have been abandoned without any justifiable reason by the current administration. We're going to build more e-blocks, community day schools, in high urban population areas. And I've spoken about this. What I've said is, in some of the high urban population areas where land is difficult to find, we're going to take existing secondary schools because they have extra land, and we'll put a second secondary school on the same land so that we can expand the number of children who have access to secondary education. With the e-blocks or the community day schools that we have built in rural areas that have a wide catchment area, we will provide dormitory blocks so that children who come from outside the community where the school is will have a place to stay while they learn. With the much publicized problem militating against the successful implementation of the free SHS program, we intend to tackle them head on. And as I've said earlier, within 100 days of my being sworn into office, the next NDC government will hold a stakeholder consultative engagement to discuss the challenges facing our educational sector with special focus on improving implementation of the free SHS policy. So this stakeholder engagement will discuss basic, secondary, and tertiary, but with emphasis on improving the implementation of free secondary education. Through this stakeholder dialogue, we will collectively devise strategies and solutions to further halt the decline and improve the free SHS program. We are committed to abolishing the double-track system as soon as possible. Mr. Chairman, between 2012 and 2016, my administration paid particular attention to technical and vocational education. When we regain power in 2024, we will revisit the initiatives that we commenced and will review the current trends and make TVET education more engaging and industry-driven. Enhancing partnerships between TVET institutions and industries across various sectors will be a priority involvement of our industries in shaping TVET training curricula that align with their needs, with the needs of the job market. And this is what we're going to emphasize so that students should be more equipped with entrepreneurial and practical skills that fit the job market. With regards to STEM education, we're going to streamline STEM education, mainstream STEM education into our educational system. We don't believe in standalone STEM secondary schools like this administration is building. We believe that to get a holistic training, all-round training, even if you are studying the humanities, you need some science education and some mathematics and technical education. And so rather than build standalone STEM secondary schools, we're going to rehabilitate all the old science resource centers and create them into STEM centers. So that all the secondary schools can have access to STEM learning instead of a few privileged secondary schools. In all the E-blocks that we built, the community day schools, we put 4 laboratories. A laboratory for physics, for chemistry, biology, and general science. Those laboratories are going to be the STEM centers for the community day schools. We're going to develop those laboratories in all the community day schools as their STEM centers. With all the other secondary schools, the science resource centers will be available for them to use as their STEM centers. An NDC leadership will also enhance the quality and availability of online mode of distance learning as a way of diversifying the delivery of tertiary education in the country. These flexible learning options will grant more students access to tertiary education while fulfilling their other employment commitments. Additionally, as the economy improves, we have plans to establish 6 new public universities in the 6 new regions. 1 in each of the newly created regions. This is to ensure that tertiary educational opportunities are accessible across the country and bridge the gap between the newly created regions and the old established regions. We're also committed to providing scholarships and financial assistance through the scholarship scheme, and this will not be on protocol basis to children of favored political exposed persons. We also intend to enhance the student loan scheme to provide proper, sufficient loans to students to be able to finance their education. And they are only enjoined to pay back when they have been formally employed. This is going to be administered in collaboration with the banking and financial sectors. So students will be required to open accounts in a particular bank, and the loan scheme will be channeled through their bank accounts. In our unwavering commitment to education, equity stands as a fundamental pillar of our vision. We recognize that achieving equitable access to quality education is essential for the holistic development and empowerment of every Ghanaian child. Equity and inclusiveness are therefore at the heart of our vision for education. Our focus will be on bridging the gap between the less endowed schools located in the rural and urban poor areas and the rich urban endowed schools. Our goal is to ensure that no child is left behind, irrespective of their socioeconomic background, their geographical location, their gender, or any other characteristic. And we started to achieve this when Nana Ajiman was Minister of Education. We saw a change in the performance of secondary schools. Some rural schools that before had been performing very poorly suddenly jumped up to the top, and there were many of them who came into the top 20 in terms of performance, at the West African Examination Council exams. We're going to continue and make that a fact of life again. Key in NDC's equity agenda is the promotion of gender equity at all levels of education. We commit ourselves to enforcing laws that empower girls and young people with special needs to facilitate their access to quality education. Now, let me emphasize that the provision of holistic education must open opportunities for job creation. And thus, once young people have been supported to develop the relevant knowledge, skills, and attitudes through the school system, the next question is how opportunities can be created for these educated youth to apply the skills and knowledge that they have acquired. And this makes the issue of job creation and employment a priority item on our next leadership agenda. A major challenge facing our young people is unemployment. As reported in the 2021 Population and Housing Census, Ghana has a working age population of 19.9 million people. And out of this, 1.6 million are unemployed, while 7.7 million find themselves in vulnerable work situations. It means they are underemployed. The general unemployment rate currently, as announced by the Ghana Statistical Service, stands at 14.7%, an alarming increase from the 8.5% in 2016. And so it means that if you disaggregate the figures, 33% of young people aged 15 to 24 in our population do not have employment. And indeed, if you go to our homes, there are several of our younger brothers and sisters who finished school 4 to 5 years ago who still are at home because they cannot find employment. But the alarming statistic is also that the higher unemployment ratio is among those with a tertiary education. And so it means that you are punished for successfully achieving tertiary education because unemployment is lower amongst those who are secondary school holders and JHS and basic school holders than amongst those with a tertiary education. To address these challenges, my administration will set up a separate ministry for youth development. This ministry is going to cut across all ministries because it is going to input policy for employment of young people in all the ministries, from education to health to agriculture to industry to trade and every other ministry. And so this is a ministry which will pay attention to youth empowerment and employment. And that's why we call it the Ministry of Youth Development. It's going to be separate from the sports ministry. The sports ministry is not going to have anything to do with it because we want 100% concentration on issues of young people. A key plank of our job creation strategy is the novel 24-hour economy program. This program has caught the fancy of many young people across the country. This innovative program is designed to create a thriving economic environment that operates round the clock, fostering a multitude of employment opportunities for young people. Under the 24-hour economic program, we'll focus on revitalizing existing and dormant industries. And so we're going to invest in bringing industries that have collapsed back on stream, and existing industries that are not performing well, we're going to invest in them so that they can create more employment for young people. We will invest in fostering the growth of emerging sectors that have the potential to operate beyond traditional working hours. By extending the business hours and encouraging businesses to operate during evenings and at weekends, we aim to maximize productivity and create a diverse range of jobs that cater for the needs and aspirations of our youth. This initiative, I'm convinced, will not be smoothly implemented without the involvement of the private sector. My administration will therefore work closely with the private sector, which presently employs 90% of the workforce, according to the Ghana GSS 2021, including business entrepreneurs and investors. By fostering partnerships and providing incentives, we will grant the private sector some tax reliefs to encourage them to embrace and operationalize the 24-hour economy policy. We will incentivize them to expand their operations and create new job opportunities. This collaborative effort with the private sector will not only stimulate economic growth, but also enable the youth to gain valuable employment experience and contribute to the nation's development. One other area I find critical in our job creation policy is the agricultural and agribusiness sectors. As a farmer myself, I strongly identify agriculture as a major backbone to the Ghanaian economy. Agriculture in all its forms, from crops, crop farming, fishing, animal rearing, etc., continues to be an avenue for employment amongst the young people of our country. As part of our job creation strategy in the agricultural sector, we will strategically diversify the agricultural landscape and tap into new market opportunities. We intend to make agriculture sexy and cool. We're going to move away from the hoe and cutlass agriculture. We will create farmer service centers so young agricultural entrepreneurs who want to go into farming will receive all the services they need from the Farmer Service Center. While they're receiving those services, we'll teach them to use the equipment themselves. As I stand here, I can drive a tractor, I can plow my own field, and we will teach the young people to be able to do it. And we'll teach you all the agric extension knowledge that you need so that you can create a good income for yourself. Aside from that, we will also introduce modern agricultural techniques. I'm sure those of you who've been to other countries, you notice that now a lot of produce is being done in greenhouse conditions. And when we're in office, if you go to Dawenya, we set up greenhouses there. The intention was to allocate it to young people who were interested in agriculture to produce vegetables, tomatoes, onions, carrots, and everything for the markets in Accra. Unfortunately, after we left, my understanding is the place has been abandoned. And so we're going to make agriculture sexy and cool so that young people will be interested in going to agriculture. We will prioritize equipping young people with the necessary technical skills, entrepreneurship and training, and the requisite technological support to enable them offer productivity-enhancing services to farmers. By empowering young people to engage in agricultural ventures as profitable businesses, we envision a thriving agricultural sector that contributes to both economic growth and sustainable employment generation. We will also expand investment in the fintech and digital spaces, both in payment platform options, but also in other sectors like agriculture. I met the fintech community recently, and they offer services from like church collections. There's a fintech that has created a platform for churches, and so they're able to make their payments online, pay their tithes online using the payment platform. But there's also a fintech that has registered farmers growing soya bean, and it gives them the seeds and the inputs, and then it gives them microcredit using their payment platform. And at the end of the farming season, when they have harvested, they buy the crops and pay them using their payment platform. It's a more efficient way of getting inputs to the farmers than the planting for food and jobs, where you just send the fertilizer to the regions and you go and find hairdressers and dressmakers selling fertilizer to farmers because they have political connections. They get the fertilizer and the farmers don't get the fertilizer. And so we'll give tax incentives also to agriculture, especially agribusiness ventures. And as I said, in every region, we're going to establish an agro-industrial zone. Government will acquire the land, will do the road, will bring the water, the electricity, everything there. So anybody who wants to set up a cassava processing plant, a cashew processing plant, any agro-industrial business, you will have land ready to set up your business. And this is going to be in all the 16 regions. And so our industrialization policy is a bit different from the one district, one factory. We don't believe that business and industry align with political delineations. They align with the value chain. And so you must put cashew processing plants in Bono and Bono East regions because that's the area where they produce the most cashew in this country. And so you tailor the industry to the comparative advantage they have in terms of their production. And so we'll do these agro-industrial zones and put those processing plants there so that young people can set up their businesses and get employment to do. We'll create a database and a dashboard that allows young people to enter their qualifications so that at any one time, employers can go into that database, and if they want a particular skill, a certain qualification in accounting, they'll be able to see all those who have those qualifications, the schools they attended, the year they completed, their experience, everything. And if they take any person from that youth database and employ him, we'll give them a tax incentive for employing that young person. And there'll be a dashboard that shows every person employed. The dashboard will continue to show how many people have been employed out of that database. Mr. Chairman, mining is another area where we can create a myriad of jobs. It's a critical sector in our economy and provides significant employment opportunities for our young people. However, it is essential to acknowledge the potential environmental risks associated with this industry, particularly in terms of destruction of our natural habitats and water bodies as exemplified by Galamsey. We're committed to striking a balance between economic development and environmental conservation. Therefore, we'll actively support small-scale mining operations that adhere to stringent environmental standards. In addition to that, we're going to employ a lot of the young people currently engaged in Galamsey. We're going to employ them in reclamation of the land and planting of trees to reclaim the lands that have been destroyed. And so young people are going to be recruited. They'll be paid a monthly income to grow trees, not plant trees. Tree planting, we just go and put a tree there. Nobody ever goes back to see whether it has thrived or not. These will be engaged in growing the trees. They'll plant the trees, and every day they'll go and check on the trees. During the Hamatan, they'll have aboboyas with polytanks in the back. They'll go and water the trees to make sure that the trees are growing. By encouraging responsible mining practice, we aim to mitigate the negative impact on our environment while ensuring the continued livelihood of those engaged in the sector. Additionally, we'll prioritize the streamlining and enhancement of community mining schemes to encourage local communities to actively participate in legal mining activities while ensuring that the benefits are distributed equitably. These and many other practical and transformative sector-specific programs are being codified in our manifesto. And when the manifesto comes, you find broader policies in that manifesto with regards to job creation and the educational sector. There are other aspects of the education sector which I have announced in earlier during our Building Ghana tour, which includes the policy that for every new school that we build, it must mandatorily come with teachers' accommodation. And so we're not going to allow the building of primary schools without accommodation for the teachers. Because one of the major things that discourages teachers from going to the rural areas especially is that they cannot find accommodation. And so every school, if it's designed and costed, must have teachers' accommodation alongside. We've had on the books the idea of incentives for rural teachers. It is a 20% markup of their basic salary for teachers who teach in rural areas. The difficulty with implementing it has been how to identify what a rural area is. And so we intend to sit with the teachers' unions and together map out what rural schools are. And once we know which the rural schools are, those teachers who agree to go on posting to those schools will get 20% of their basic salary as an incentive for going to the rural schools. We'll also have a teachers' housing scheme. Government is going to partner with NAT and NAGRAT and all the teachers' unions, and we're going to give counterpart fundings in addition to their funding. And teachers are going to be able to decide where they want a house built for them. You must have at least 15 to 20 years of your working life ahead of you. And government will guarantee to do the deductions over 20 years. The houses will be indexed in cedis, not in dollars. And so the price of the house will be in cedis. And every month, a contribution will be taken from your salary to pay for the house, so that by the time you go on retirement, you will not go to your family house and go quarreling with your relatives and say, this was my grandmother's room, and I'm coming back to stay there. While it is understandable that the poor performance of this government and the unmet expectation by the political class may have given rise to apathy and skepticism amongst young people, including students, about the future of this country, failure to take interest in national affairs will have the effect of entrenching the problems and worsening the already dire situation in which we find ourselves. I therefore enjoin young people to take an active part in our politics and in what goes on in our country. I, however, urge the young people of the country to keep hope alive and not to despair, even as there appears to be no light at the end of the tunnel. NDC will provide that light and that hope. I can assure you, the young people of this country, that a new dawn is on the horizon, and that the next NDC government will work tirelessly to restore the economy to a sound footing so that you can find jobs and be able to live decent lives. And as I emphasize, the next NDC administration will averagely be the youngest cabinet ever in the history of this country. I therefore invite the teeming masses of Ghanaian youth to join forces with our party, the NDC, as we wage this campaign to wrest power from a clearly underperforming government that has effectively destroyed our economy and made life unbearable for us all. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you, thank you. You may be seated.
very much, Your Excellency. Shall we appreciate him once again? Building the Ghana we want together. And this is the time where we also get to play a part by making a comment. If you have a suggestion, I'm sure His Excellency will be happy to hear it. If you have a question, he's happy to hear it. But before we get to that part, I want to remind us all that we are live on GTV. Thank you. GTV is one of our media partners. We're also live on our Facebook channel, WIUC-Ghana. And you can also follow us on WIUC-Ghana Official on our YouTube channel. You can also listen online at Wisconsin Radio. So it's time for the question and answer section. There are 2 microphones in the aisles. Can I see the ushers? Can we have the microphones? Can you bring them forward to this side? And we will queue behind the microphone. And I'm going to give the first 10 questions to our students because it is all about the youth. And I would like to call Hakeem Enyan Steve, who is our SRC president. He will have the privilege of asking the first question. So whilst our students get ready, Your Excellency, one of our deans has a question. Your Excellency, are you ready for us? So Dr. Akwasam, one of our deans, would want to ask a question whilst we have our students get ready. So Doc, if you can please.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, I've followed with keen interest your presentation and many others that you've done in other areas throughout your tour. One issue that actually seems to be a burden on my shoulders, and probably that of the country, is the problem of uncompleted government projects. During President Kufuor's time, he started many which he couldn't complete. During your time and the late professor's time, you also left some when we were leaving office. The current administration is also having some to deal with. Basically, what are your plans with regards to uncompleted projects in Ghana? Because it seems to me that the areas you are tackling, educational sector and so on and so forth, many projects have been done which are still lying idle. But we took loans as a nation to start them. But the ones you are promising, can we pause as a nation for even just a year to go back to all the viable projects and see what we can do with them before we can start new ones in the same areas? Your Commander Sugar Factory is lying idle. Loan from India government is lying idle. What do we do? The final one is, when you assume office, will you look at the uncompleted National Cathedral? Thank you.
So I will also ask Dr. Elias Megbeto of the business school to ask his question, and then I'll take a third question from the dean of our business school, and then you can answer that, and then afterwards we can start with our students. And please, let's keep our questions brief. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, His Excellency. You have answered most of my questions, but this one left. Education. We train people, we give them allowances, and we give them scholarships. Some of these scholarships, very huge sums, especially those who travel abroad. In the trainings, sometimes we give hypocritical undertaking or bonds which nobody follows. You pay allowances to them, hard-earned state funds, nothing is done, they are flying out of the country. Nothing is done to bond them. Some take government scholarships, hard-earned public sector funds. They finish their programs, they are still outside, nothing is done to recoup our monies. These leakages in the public sector, how can this be addressed? Maybe let me add the second one. Misguided public policies or implementation of certain misguided public policies. Some of them, I think they are unwarranted. You've just mentioned so many deficiencies or things that needed to be covered in the educational sector. But we see expenditures, for example, distributing tablets to students now, which I feel is misguided because there are other things that need to be done. Another misguided expenditure is what I see as the National Cathedral. You see, those who link this National Cathedral to the biblical David, when you read the Bible, David, after he became successful and victorious and defeated all his enemies.
Thank you very much, Doc. I think your question is a bit lengthy, so respectfully, if we can wrap up here.
Let me just end it.
Yes.
When David defeated them, and he was satisfied, that is when he said, let me build for the Lord. Have we defeated our enemies of inflation, exchange rate, and others? I end my question.
Thank you. So we'll have the third question from Doc.
Your Excellency, thank you for your brilliant speech and also your vision for this country. I have two questions. One is about, I didn't hear anything about health. We have a situation where we hear most of our nurses and doctors are running out of this country. What is your plan so that our nurses and doctors that we train can remain in this country? Number two, I want to hear something about the dirty environment in which we find ourselves. All the sachet water, the plastics that we see around, it makes our city really a shame if you visit other countries and cities. Thank you.
Thank you. I think His Excellency can now answer these questions because we've had 4 questions already. Your Excellency.
Thank you. Actually, my presentation focused on the areas you asked me to come and talk about. It was about our policy for education and employment for young people. And so that's what I covered. And so I didn't do sanitation, I didn't do healthcare. But I'll take those questions anyway. I think I can answer them. So let's begin with uncompleted projects. My view is that it's a shame that we abandon projects because the credit will be given to our predecessors. Our Constitution in the Directive Principles of State Policy says that succeeding governments shall continue the projects begun by preceding governments. It's there in black and white, it's in the Constitution. And so, even though it's not coded in our law, it is in our directive principles of state policy. And so we have an obligation to continue projects that were started by a previous government. And I know that from Jerry Rawlings' time, projects that were started by Rawlings were continued by Kufuor. In Professor Mills's time, projects that were started by Kufuor were continued by Professor Mills. All the Get Fund projects that were awarded to contractors under Kufuor, Get Fund continued to pay and certify certificates and pay them for the work done. The only exception with President Kufuor's administration and ours was that they started a gang of 6 road projects. If you remember, we called some road projects the Gang of 6. And even though they initiated the projects, there was no dedicated funding to continue them. But what did we do? Professor Mills made us do budgetary allocation for each of those projects. One is the Tetekwashi to Adenta road that we now pass on without remembering what it was like. Another is the road from Achimota Brewery all the way through to John Tay School. There were 6 of them. One was the Swami Interchange. And I can assure you that when we came into office, we continued and completed all of them. When NDC came into office, the Swami Interchange was only 32% complete. By the time we left office, it was almost 90% complete. All that was left was the extension to Ebuakwa formulation, which this government is continuing. There was also the affordable housing project that was started. And what we did was, because government did not have the money to complete the project, we handed over the flats to SHC, State Housing Company, and to SNIT. And because of that policy of handing it over to SNIT, Boteman is completed and is occupied. We also gave them the Kumasi affordable housing to complete, but I think SNIT ran out of funds or something. But I stated clearly that when I come into office, we're going to do an inventory of all those abandoned and uncompleted projects. And in every year's budget, we're going to make budgetary allocation for completing them. And like I said, we're not going to be in a hurry to start new projects when we have all these uncompleted projects that have been abandoned. I mean, for instance, take the Agenda 111 hospitals. I said that it would have been more prudent to start, say, 40 of them and finish them. And then you can continue another 20 and finish them and continue. But you start 88 hospitals at once, all over the country. And recently, the Agenda 111 Secretariat says they can only finish 20 before they leave office. So it means that 68 hospitals are going to be left to President John Mahama to come and complete. And so we must also look at the prudence of how we start projects in terms of completion. And I think that that's something we would look at. So we won't be in a hurry to start new projects. The little money we have, we will make budgetary allocation in every year's budget to continue and finish those projects. There's a particular problem with the projects in the education sector. You go to many secondary schools, there are half-completed dining halls, half-completed dormitory blocks, half-completed classroom blocks, laboratories, and everything. These were projects that were awarded by the Get Fund. This government has collateralized 60% of the income of the Get Fund in what they call the Dachi bond. And they have taken that money up front. And so now, with the Get Fund levy that we pay, only 40% of the revenue is available to Get Fund to continue these projects. And that is the hindrance that has stalled most of the projects in the secondary schools. And that's why children don't have dormitories to sleep in, they don't have classrooms to study in. And so I made a statement and I said that the Dachi bond should be added to the debt restructuring so that it can free up, and we should add it to the public debt so that it can free up the flows of the Get Fund to continue and finish all the projects that the GET Fund has awarded in all the various schools that we have around. And so we'll prioritize the completion of ongoing and abandoned projects rather than starting new projects. National Cathedral, I've spoken about this before. For me, the National Cathedral was a covenant somebody made with God, an individual. He said he swore to God that if he became president, he would build a cathedral for him. And so, from my perspective, it is his promise to build a house for God. And I don't know if God asked him for a house, you know. I'm sure that if he really had asked God what God would want him to do with $400 million, I don't think God would have chosen a cathedral. I don't think God would have chosen a cathedral when $400 million could have provided textbooks for all our students in school. I don't think God would have chosen a cathedral when He could have provided hostels in our universities for our students to have a place to stay. I don't think God would have asked you to build Him a cathedral when we could have used that money to dualize the road from here to Cape Coast and prevent accidents. People die every day on that road because it's a single lane road. And so God didn't ask for it. Somebody promised it to God. And so a correction. I meant Sofo line interchange, not Swami interchange. I was told I said Swami interchange. I meant Sofo line interchange. Thanks for the correction. And so it was a personal promise. And if I have 400 million, God will be angry with me if I use it to build that cathedral. So I'm not going to take taxpayers 400 million or borrow 400 million from any source to build that cathedral. I said that if us as Christians believe that we should have that cathedral, then it's our duty to raise that money from our own pockets or from other Christian organizations that can help us to build that cathedral. But I don't believe that we should use any taxpayers' money or borrow money and add to our public debt to build that cathedral. We're not Christians alone in this country. There are Muslims, there are Buddhists, there are African traditional religionists, and all of them contribute to taxes. And so I don't think that one religion, we as Christians, should take taxpayers' money that is paid by Muslims and Buddhists and African traditional religionists and build a cathedral for ourselves. The Muslims built their national mosque. And as far as I know, not one cedi of government of Ghana taxpayers' money went into the mosque. And so when we come, we'll do consultation with Ghanaians or even with the Christian community, what we want to do with regards to a cathedral. If it's a priority, then we must go look for the money and build it. But I'm not, as president, going to use any public funds to build a cathedral. The basic principle that underlies scholarships is that, one, the course the student is going to do is not available in Ghana, or it is a priority course where we do not have enough capacity to train students. And so those are the principles that we look at. I mean, if you want to do an MBA, there are so many schools doing MBA in Ghana today. Why should somebody go abroad to go and do an MBA and be paid for by Ghanaian taxpayers' money? If you want to go and do a Harvard MBA, for heaven's sake, pay for it yourself. And so we must stick by the rules and regulations for which scholarships are awarded. For instance, in our time, we gave a lot of scholarships to go to Scotland. Many Ghanaian students went to Scotland because we had started the beginning of oil production. And we did not have enough expertise in oil production. And so in the 4 years that I was in office, actually in the 8 years from Professor Mills's time, we skewed a lot of the scholarships to students who were going to learn petroleum sector, oil management, accounting, oil sector law, and so on and so forth. And there are many students who got those scholarships and are back here in Ghana and working. And so we must draw the lines. We must have a minister like Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman who will make sure that the scholarships we are being given are for scholarships that are relevant to the human resource development of this country. And again, the scholarships must go to underprivileged people, young people who come from backgrounds that do not have the capacity to sponsor them. And so again, the social construct of the person's origin should be taken before a scholarship is given. I mean, there are many of us who can afford to pay the fees of our children if we decide that they should go to university abroad. And so we have no business going to the scholarship secretariat and asking for scholarships for our children. And so we will have a person superintending the scholarship secretariat that will make sure that the guidelines are implemented and that those getting the scholarships are deserving of those scholarships. Misguided policies, yes, and he mentioned one. You bring a new curriculum, the children have no textbooks in basic school for the last 4 years, and you think that giving pre-tertiary students laptops, tablets, is more important. Of course, everybody knows the political expediency. The pre-tertiary students are going to register in May because some of them would be coming 18 years and above. Some are 18 already, and they're going to be the ones voting. So this is a gift to entice them to vote for the current government. Otherwise, if you are using 1.3 billion cedis to give pre-tertiary students laptop, our priority would have been different. There are other things begging for funding in our educational system than those laptops. But it's a bribe for them to vote for this government. But, I mean, the children do not exist in isolation. They live in households and families. Some of them, parents, are those who were working in the banking sector that you cruelly closed 9 indigenous banks and threw them all out onto the street. Bankers have become Uber drivers. Those are the same people whose children are in pre-tertiary education. So you think if you give his child a tablet, the child will vote for you after what you have done to their parents? Most of those children go home and their parents struggle to put a meal on the table for them because of your poor mismanagement of this economy. And you think that just giving the child a tablet is enough to buy their conscience to vote for you? I don't think so. The children should take the tablet, but they should remember that we cannot stand another 4 years of this poor driver Banza and his driver's mate. And then he spoke about health professionals. NDC believes in opening the capacity for training of health professionals. And we believe in providing opportunities for them to work. And that's why we're building the community day secondary school so that we could employ more teachers. And that's why we're building hospitals so that we could employ more nurses and more health professionals. Let us produce enough to feed ourselves, but also to export. If you listen to me, I said there's nothing wrong with migration of health workers. Indeed, when we come into office, we will sign contracts with countries. Philippines have done it. Philippines have signed contracts with countries in the Middle East and other places in Europe, and they export their nurses and caregivers to those countries on fixed-term contracts. So you get a 5-year contract to go and work in a country. A small percentage of your income is remitted back to the country, but you also gain experience, and after 5 years when you come back, you are more experienced than you would have been probably if you were working at home. And while you are there, you'll be remitting money back home to your parents, and that is a very huge source of foreign currency. As I speak to you today, Philippines gets $30 billion from its professionals working abroad. These are doctors, these are nurses, these are healthcare professionals, these are engineers, seamen. Philippines has the most seamen on all the ships in this world. And all of them are earning money and sending it back. We have the Maritime University here. Why don't we open it up and train more Ghanaian youth as seamen and put them on ships to work? And so, as part of our employment ministry's obligation to deal with labor affairs and also to deal with employment matters, they will also have a desk where we sign agreements with other countries that need professionals to come and work, and we will send our professionals there to go and work, gain experience, gain money, and come back home. Sanitation. We will close down the Ministry of Sanitation. One, to reduce expenditure, and two, I don't see any use. Accra, our country is dirtier than when there was no Ministry of Sanitation. Indeed, this country was cleaner when sanitation was under local government than as a standalone ministry. And so we'll close down that ministry and we'll take the sanitation schedule back to local government. Indeed, because we want to reduce government expenditure, it's not only the sanitation ministry. In transport, aviation, and railways, we're going to close them down and send them back to the transport ministry. We're going to combine communications and information again. And so we want to reduce the number of ministries. And so with cleanliness, we think that it is a duty of the district assemblies. Every assembly has an obligation to make sure that its district is clean. And so we must decentralize sanitation to the district level. And it must be a criteria of performance for the district chief executive, that if we come to your district and your district is dirty, that is one of the performance indicators. And so when we're going to change district chief executive, if you have a dirty district, we will remove you and bring somebody who can make sure that the district is clean. Our problem as a nation is we're not holding people accountable. The district chief executive is giving allowances, he's giving a house, he's giving a car, and the district is his responsibility. And so he must make sure, if he goes around his district and there's a dirty place, he must make sure that it is clean. But because we don't hold them accountable, everybody just gets away with murder. So it will be a performance criteria. We'll send an independent team around to the districts, and they will mark you. If your district is dirty, they will give you a negative mark. And when it comes to reshuffling district chief executives, you will be shown your performance. This is what you did. Your district was dirty, you know. You did not provide social services. You built only one primary school. We wanted you to build 2 primary schools. You built only 1. You have a performance criteria on which you will be judged. It will be scientific. You won't assume that somebody has victimized you, because you see that you yourself did not perform. And when you're going to the district, we'll tell you what we want to see. And if you don't meet it, we will remove you and bring somebody who can do it. And so that's it.
Thank you very much. So we're going to take another set of 4, but I see there is a lecturer at the mic. The next 3 must be students. If you're not a student of this university and you are in the next 4, I'm sorry, I will not take your question. So after my colleague, faculty, I have the SRC president and then 2 other students. Tell us your name, your school, and please, your question must be brief. If it's too long, I would have to cut in. So, Your Excellency, the next 4 questions. Thank you.
Is it coming? My name is Thomas Achumbi from the business school, and I'm the 10th patron for Wisconsin. 10, Wisconsin, are you there? Good. Your Excellency, I have 3 concerns. When you met us at Atraco, I didn't have the chance that you have come to my house, so it's a full chance for me. Number one, you talk about, that day we talk about trained teachers. When they go out, they have work to do. Nurses, when they go out, they have work to do. The lawyers also came and spoke. But a chunk of other students are left out. And these are the business school, the HR, the marketers, the accountants, and the banking and finance students. What do we have for them? I am suggesting that a law should be passed to compel universities to allow students on entry to start doing internship in companies and organizations. That will mean also laying out or throwing out incentives for these companies to accept these students, so that by the time they finish the 4 years, and in addition to their national service, they would have done 4 years at least of working experience. Because in my life, I've experienced that whenever they are advertising jobs, they're asking for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years experience. These students, where are they going to get experience? So I am suggesting that a law like that should be passed. Number two, I also have another concern. Yesterday I interacted with a young guy of 21 years. He was lamenting of how he struggled to get a job. And any office he went, the application was always received by grandmothers and grandfathers. All these people are there on contracts. Can you come out a law that will cut off the contracts? If you have the contract for 4 years, it's okay. So that there will be vacancies at the top. So the promotion will be done and people can get a chance to be promoted, to get employment. Lastly, the e-blocks, very important, must continue. And I urge you to continue with it. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in the person of Hakim Enyan Steve Ismaila, the SRC President for Wisconsin International University College. His Excellency, your flagship policy is the 24 hours economy. And I would want to get a clarity, a very pictorial view of how this is going to be done. And the second question also goes to, in as much as there are choked public sectors, we believe that some young people also have to create their own jobs. Now, the exchange rate and other things such as, let's say, loans, the interest rates on loans are actually high. What will be the policy for young men and women who may want to create their own jobs to employ their other colleagues? Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Princess Adegoke. I'm a communication student. Your Excellency, my question is that, as a presidential aspirant, how do you plan to support both students and entrepreneurs, particularly those involved in industries like food juice manufacturing and those SMEs? My second question is that the attempt by the MSMEs to automate their manufacturing processes in order to improve efficiency and productivity is constrained by the unavailability of machineries locally. As President, what do you intend to do about the cost of duty on imported machinery for small-scale businesses? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nana Alexis Obenewa Opoku Ajiman, a student of the Wisconsin International School. My question is with regards to the current Ministry of Youth and Sports, and also with regards to the Ghana Youth Authority and its policies, which I believe in 2016, before you went out of power, was actually initiated with some policies that actually guided the youth on what exactly they should go for and what the country itself has for them. In your case of trying to separate that ministry what will be the policy, or again, what will be the road plan for you to be able to educate the youth? Because I believe majority of my colleagues here do not even know about the Ghana youth policy, let alone know what is in there that helps them become who they are as Ghanaian youth at hand. Thank you.
Good evening, His Excellency.
Speak up.
Okay. I'm in the person of Batia Samuel Sante, the immediate past SRC president of Wisconsin University. Yes, we are here as products of private universities. I want to know, when given the nod to become president of the Republic, what is the policy that you are going to put in place to aid private university owners run smoothly so that the pressure that we students go through by paying exorbitant school fees can be brought to the minimal level? And also, I want to know the policy that you have that is going to affect the entertainment industry as we have upcoming artists in the system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the intermission for those of you who didn't know what was happening. We were live this whole while, and so they were going off live, so they needed us to just calm things a bit before we continue. So now we're not live anymore. It's being filmed for later playback. All right, so thank you. It says, actually that is the new model of training students. The old model of having them sit in class, 24/7, just learning theory, no longer exists. If you go to modern schools, modern tertiary institutions, they have agreements with industry and with business. And so they send their young people on internship to go and work. Indeed, there are some part of the school year where half the year, 6 months, the children are not in school. They are out in the field working and gaining practical experience for what they are being taught. And then when school opens, they come back. But that is the business of your school, to sign partnerships with business industry and place your students there. Right now, I see all the universities just give their students a letter and say, go and find a place and do internship. So the children come around, uncle, can you get me a place to do my internship? Then you have to call people you know and say, oh, can you accept my nephew to do his internship? I think that in a major way, you must go out and court companies and say, look, can you give us 2 places every year You go to another company, can you give us 3 places every year? We want to bring our students to come and do internships. All you need to do is give them transport to come to work every day, that's all. And you go to Jata Cement, go to the industrial area, go to the business processing centers, and get all those fintechs and all of them, and sign agreements, 2 a year, 3 a year, 4 a year, 5 a year, and then you send your students there. And part of the school year, they must be there doing the internships. Government is not going to be able to be the one to go around the businesses and say, give internships to universities. It is one of the responsibilities that you must take. The lecturer from business school, please, just go around as a business school, write to industries and say, look, this is our business school, this is what we're teaching, we want to practicalize the education, and so every year we want you to give us some places to bring our students, and I'm sure many organizations will be willing to oblige. The policy for giving contracts in the public services when one attains 60 is that the person should be in a position of a certain specialized skill for which if he leaves immediately, they would have nobody to perform that skill. That is the policy. Unfortunately, it has been abused. And so anybody who is reaching 60 is not yet ready to retire, even though there are people who are as experienced as him, just right behind him, go and ask for an extension on contract. And the Constitution says they can have 2 years, after that another 2 years, and then after that 1 year. So he's able to stay at work for 5 years. Now remember that being at work for 5 years is preventing some young people for 5 years from getting a job. And so we must discourage completely the issue of contract. If you join, know that the Constitution says you will retire at 60. Everybody should prepare for retirement. And what I believe will make it more transparent is that the Office of Head of Civil Service and Public Services must publish every year the number of people on contract and what job it is they are doing, so that we can tell whether it is a job for which nobody is available to do it. If we do that and we move all the aged people out after 60, you'll be surprised that we'll be creating like about 50 to 70,000 jobs every year to new entrants into the public services and the local government service. And so, in our case, we're going to make sure that every ministry and every agency publishes who are on contract and what they are doing as being on contract, so that we can tell if they have a specialized skill for which they must be there. If they don't have that specialized skill, then they have to go home. All of us should retire at a certain time. And when you retire, it's not the end of your life. You can come and join me in farming. I've been farming for the last how many years, since I was voted out as president. And at least it earns me a little income, which when I add to my pension, I'm able to look after myself and my children. And so there are many other things that you can do. If you can move into the private sector, that is your problem. Or you can become an entrepreneur. And so those things are all there. E-blocks, I said already in the statement that we will finish them. I've spoken enough about e-blocks, so I don't need to make any comment again. We've put out a lot of literature on the 24-hour economy. Indeed, we have frequently asked questions. We call it FAQs on the 24-hour economy. And so if you are interested, the one who has the question, I'm going to give you the link, and then you can go on that link. Actually, even if you go on Sami Jemfi's Facebook page, you see the FAQs on a 24-hour economy. And every question that you are confused about, you'll find there. How do young people get credit to set up businesses? That was the reason for which I set up the Ghana Exim. The Ghana Exim was meant to direct credit to young entrepreneurs who want to start up businesses. If you remember, we also set up the Youth Enterprise Support Initiative with a seed money of 10 million Ghana cedis. And it was given to young people who were about to start their businesses. We're going to deepen that investment in young people's businesses so that, Charlie, vandals, I beg you. Can somebody move them a bit away so that those at the back can hear? And so we're going to deepen those investments in young people's businesses. And what we're going to do is, we're going to, right now, the credit that is given by the Ghana Exim Bank is like nuclear secret. You cannot find the beneficiaries anywhere. There's no document that publishes which businesses have benefited. Under NDC, every year, Ghana Exim, in its annual financial returns, will list the beneficial companies that have received money from Ghana Exim. And we're going to make sure that most of those enterprises are enterprises that belong to young people who want to become entrepreneurs. For existing companies that have, and that goes to the next question about support to young people who want to make fruit juice and other businesses like that, and only need equipment, you're entitled to exemptions. And so if you register under a policy and you bring in your equipment for your factory, you're supposed to be given an exemption to be able to clear those equipment without duties and levies. And so we'll just enforce that. And that is what the Youth Ministry is for. Because the Youth Ministry, Youth Development Ministry will compile a list of those entrepreneurs. And the Youth Development Ministry will give them to the Ministry of Finance, which will apply for the exemptions from Parliament for those business people, so that they can get the exemptions to bring their equipment in and do their business. It's the same as the issue of duties and levies. As I said, exemptions. Then the youth policy. Like the lady said, a lot of people are not aware of the youth policy because the sports ministry is not interested in making them aware of the youth policy. As I said, the combination of sports and youth is making youth development suffer because the sports ministry is concentrating and focused only on sports. And even in the sports fraternity, there's a complaint that they are focusing only on Black Stars and football, that's all. When Black Stars are playing, money must be found anywhere to finance the Black Stars. So by the time they finish Black Stars and even look at the Black Queens football and look at the other sports discipline, youth falls a long way behind. And that's why we say we're moving all youth issues to its own ministry, where 24/7, the minister and all his staff are going to concentrate on youth development, employment opportunities, support to youth entrepreneurship startups, digitalization, education. And that's why I said it's going to be a cross-cutting ministry, because it's going to cross-cut health, it's going to cross-cut education, communications, agriculture, and almost every ministry, it will be a cross-cutting ministry. But it will have somebody who's attending to youth matters 24/7. It will be a 24-hour economy ministry. That's it. Next.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, time is not on our side, and unfortunately we can't take all the people in the queue. I was going to take just one. Can we add on a few? All right, so with His Excellency's permission, we'll take the last 3 questions. And so the last person will be Somaila. So thank you all. I think you can follow the conversations with His Excellency on other platforms. So we'll take the last 3 questions. Thank you.
I'm a practicing nurse, and I'm also a health tutor in this institution. Mr. President, I believe there's a health challenge in our country. The issues of mass exodus of nurses into other countries coupled with the high rate of unemployment of nurses. I believe there's an irony in this country relating to health. We train a lot of health students. We train a lot of nurses. Ironically, a lot of the facilities, health facilities, are short of staffs. I think about this and I do not understand. Mr. President, I would like to throw this challenge to you. That is coming in. I'll plead with you and ask you, what are you going to do about these challenges in relation to health? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President. I am Donatus Napong from the Faculty of Nursing. My question is regarding the school, and our school has been accredited as one of the private universities, but we have not been chartered. And so therefore, we have difficulties in pre-moderation from other universities. So my question is, what will be your aid when we give you the nod as a president for our school to be chartered, and in order to ease the stress on us? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Sumaila Idrisu, a level 300 communication student. I think any investor that wants to do business in the country, first of all, looks at these three components. That is our justice system, the economy, and the security. Let me do away with two, the economy and the justice system, and focus on the security. In most cases, from past president till now, you hear Minister of Interior with a great background, Minister of Defense with accounting background, national security, different background. Whereas the technocrat, the retired generals, the retired commissioners are sitting down there. We also saw what happened at Ayawaso West Wogon and the Jura incident, leaving some to life-threatening injuries and some even losing their lives. My question is, when you come to power, will you consider this retired technocrat to occupy these three key positions in order to avoid the security gap, or you will still maintain the fact that you want an agric economist to occupy defense, interior, and national security? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe I should start from the last question. Ministerial positions are not necessarily aligned to the fact that you did a particular course. You might have the talent, you might have the proficiency for something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that all ministries must be aligned to the courses that people did. A university education should prepare you for leadership in any area. And all over the world, actually, if you go to the Western countries, most of their ministers of defense are not soldiers. And so there's nothing that says that retired generals should be Minister of Defense, retired policemen should be Minister of Interior, retired BNI should be National Security. No, there's nothing like that. You must find somebody capable of leadership, leading the institution to achieve its objectives. He could be a soldier, that's a bonus. He could be not a soldier and somebody else, but has the leadership qualities to be able to carry out the job. In most cases, indeed, if you look at the backgrounds of most ministers of Interior, for me, they mostly have been lawyers. I see a lot of lawyers having been Minister of Interior because you have to deal with implementation of the law. And so not necessarily a person who has retired from immigration service or one of those. Sometimes you get it to align properly, where you get somebody who has the expertise and the leadership skill, but also is a person who has experience in that particular sector. Then if that happens, you thank God because God has blessed you. Like he blessed me when I got Nana Jane as my Minister of Education. I mean, she has leadership as a skill, having led a whole public university, first woman, you know, and knows a lot about the education sector. But she has that capacity to lead people and achieve objectives. And that's why we're lucky to have her as Minister of Education. But in other areas, you don't necessarily have, I mean, they talk about one of the best agricultural ministers who was the minister under Champon's regime. It was Colonel Benasco. He was not an agriculturist, he was a soldier. And yet under his leadership, Ghana achieved food self-sufficiency. And so soldiers can be in other ministries. The important thing is, what are the leadership qualities of the person? And the thing is, our government is going to be a government that will give performance indicators to every appointee. And so before you go to that ministry, the policy think tank, using our manifesto and what we have promised the people of Ghana, we will put in black and white in writing what we expect to see in the period that you are minister. And we will do reshuffle. We won't be like some president who can't reshuffle his cabinet. And so when the time for reshuffle comes, your scorecard is what will show whether you should be reshuffled or you are doing a good job and you should continue. So I think that performance tracking will be important in our government, and we'll select people who have the leadership skills to be able to achieve the objectives that we assign them in those places. With regards to chartering, universities start by affiliating with other universities. And so when we started licensing private universities, we allowed them to affiliate. But as time goes on, as they build their faculty and their infrastructure, they are supposed to get their own charters so that eventually they can issue their own degrees and qualifications. I do think that we must nurture these universities to move towards chartering. But I don't think the threat that was issued recently, that if you don't charter with this period, we're going to close you down, that will not happen under NDC. We'll give you time. We'll ask you to give us a timetable for building your faculty to when you can award your own degrees, and then we will give the charter. I happen to be the president who signed the charter for Central University College. And it took them years to get to that point. And so we're going to work with you, the private universities. You can continue your affiliations for the meantime, but we'll ask you to give us a timetable when you can fulfill all the things that will make you have your own charter. And in that time, we would let you charter. And if I have the honor of signing your charters, I'll be very happy. But we're not going to compel you. And then shortage of staff in the various hospitals and other facilities. You go to several health facilities in the urban centers, and we have overstaffing. And then you go to other areas, and we have understaffing. One of the major problems we have as a country is not that we're not able to produce enough to staff, but nobody wants to go to some places. So if you go to some regions like Upper East and Upper West, if you look at the doctor to patient ratio, it is very low. If you come to other places, you look at the doctor-patient ratio, it's very high. It's the same with nurses, with x-ray technicians, and everybody. Everybody wants to work in the capital city. But the point is, it depends on what we call financial clearance. what the Ministry of Finance does and must do is to get the list of all staff that are retiring from the public services and the local government services. And it can replace them without increasing the overall number of people working for government. And it must give a big chunk of that to teachers and health personnel. Currently, a big chunk of that is going to security services at the expense of health personnel. And so we must balance it out so that we can provide more teachers, more nurses. I think that over the years, we've taken a lot of police officers and other security services. I don't say they are not important, they are important, and we must continue to recruit so that we're able to keep tab on security in our country. But at the same time, we must realize that we need nurses and teachers and doctors to be able to make sure that our children are well taught and that our healthcare is well taken care of. And so we will open the production for more of these health professionals. We will continue the completion of these hospitals to provide areas for them to be able to work. And as I said, we will produce enough of them to be able to feed ourselves, but also to be able to export on contract to other countries that do not have enough, so that we can mop up any excess that we have without them having to sit at home. As we are talking, there are about 3 cohorts of nursing trainees who are sitting at home who do not have employment. And so when we come, we'll fast track the clearance of the backlog so that the new ones that are coming will also have the opportunity to find places to go. One of the things we're going to do, and listen here carefully, we are going to advertise the positions in the districts. And so we're going to do district recruitments. And so if Bole district needs 120 nurses, we will advertise for 120 nurses in Bole district. If Navrongo district needs 400 nurses, we'll advertise for 400 nurses in Navrongo district. This will be the same with teachers, so that you apply to the district that you want to go and teach. And if they take you, they will post you. This centralized posting is what creates the problem where they post you to Bunkrugu and you say you won't go. But if there's vacancy in Bunkrugu district and that's where you have to go and work and you apply and you are taking, you would stay in Bunkrugu district and work until you apply for a transfer. And so we need to decentralize the recruitment so that the districts can advertise the positions. They know where the positions are. They have a health center here. They have a health facility here. They have the district hospital here. They have this here. They know how many. They need an X-ray technician. They need a laboratory specialist. They need 200 nurses. They need this. They will advertise it. And you apply. And once you are taken, you go, they'll post you. And you go and you have your secure job, you are working. In future, you marry, you can apply for a transfer because your husband is working here, you want to join your husband, that one can be done. Or a husband wants to join a wife, then you can apply for transfer and move to her district. Maybe she'll be in my district, Bole district. You are in Dodowa, you want to join your wife in Bole. We'll be happy to welcome you to come to Dodowa and come and work, to Bole and come and work. So decentralizing the recruitment will also help us to spread out the professionals, the teachers, and the health personnel so that every district has its fair share of their expertise. I think that's all. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Oh, no.
Shall we give it up?
Policy on entertainment industry.
Oh.
That is an area where we can create a lot of employment. When I was president, I gave them 1 million cedis to the artists and the entertainment industry because they wanted to set up an aging artist fund to be able to take care of their aged, musicians and others. But then we asked them to provide us with a blueprint so that we could assist them in terms of the arts, in terms of filmmaking and all that. One of the major challenges they have is exhibition theaters. When they want to premiere the films, the places that are suitable for exhibiting their films take 50% of the proceeds. So they share the proceeds. And so if you have people coming to watch the premiere of a film, the owner of the exhibition hall takes 50% of all the gate proceeds, and you have only 50% left. Meanwhile, we know that because of the new media, they are not able to, they don't sell CDs and things again. And so they make their money from the exhibition. So they exhibit in Takrade, they do in Kamale, they do in Kumasi, they do in Accra, and they're supposed to recoup their money from the exhibition. So I promised them that government will help them to set up exhibition theaters that they own as a group. And so they will charge just for the use of the theater without sharing profits. So the money will go to the filmmaker, but he'll just pay for the cost of renting the theater. If it's 5,000 cedis, you pay 5,000 cedis. As many people as come and watch and pay gate fee, that one, the money goes to the filmmaker so that he's able to recoup his investment that he used in making the film. It will be the same for musicians. If there's a government premises that they want to do a performance, we would give them, especially if they are local musicians, we'll give them a preferential rate so that they pay lower, and all the money that they get from those who come and listen to them goes to them so that they're able to recoup their investments. We also protect their royalties and their rights so that people are not taking advantage of their music without them earning something. In other parts of the world, those in the entertainment ministry are the richest people in those countries. And yet, in this part, they are the poorest. I find myself having to take care of so many of them who do not have anything. And so I made it a special project every quarter to send them some food and some money. I won't disclose who they are, but there are many of them who I'm looking after like that. And I think that we need to create a situation where they're able to make enough money in their lifetime to be able to look after themselves in the future. Some of the young ones are taking advantage of the new digital media and all that. Their music and their films are on offer on Netflix and other places, and they get remittances from them. We can put their films on YouTube so that they earn money from YouTube and other media for exhibiting their talents. And so we have a very broad policy for the entertainment industry, and when the manifesto is published and it comes out, I'm sure that we have consulted with them, and they've given us many of their challenges. And so we're going to incorporate all that in the manifesto. That's why we are not just doing a manifesto that has a few experts and intellectuals sitting in a room and writing it. We're going around the country and talking to the people in the industry and getting their inputs into the manifesto. So I'm sure that everybody would have something in the manifesto which will make it a win-win for everybody, and it will truly be worthy of the name as a People's Manifesto. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You may kindly now take your seat. Shall we please stand as His Excellency returns to his speech? And we also invite our President, Professor Obeng Mwereku, who has been chairing this program, to give us his closing remarks. Shall we welcome Professor Obeng Mwereku back upstage?
I will continue to stand on the established protocol as I have returned to the podium to give brief closing remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have been all illuminated with a very brilliant presentation from His Excellency John Dramani Mahama this evening. In fact, we stand extremely blessed that he has been a trailblazer in the lecture series that the School of Communication has established. And I think it is a very prudent choice to get His Excellency to break the ice with this program. We were reminded by the theme that the NDC has chosen for the 2024 campaign, building the Ghana we want together. And I think the introduction of the speaker was done by a colossus in the discipline of communication, who happens to be his former lecturer at the University of Ghana in the person of Professor Kwame Kakari. And it was well done. We were grateful to hear about two important aspects of the policy of the NDC that His Excellency chose to speak about. These have been extracted from the manifesto which is yet to be unveiled to the nation of Ghana. But we have been given a foretaste of that manifesto in his speech. He addressed us on education policy changes that is envisioned by the NDC. He addressed us comprehensively about the need to review the free senior high school policy in areas affecting the lack of textbooks in the face of a new curriculum. He mentioned the need for schools, secondary school or basic school students studying still under trees. That is a very serious challenge that speaks to the crisis that we are facing in our education sector. He touched on the high cost of accommodation for our tertiary level students, which is hampering access to education, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. He mentioned the fact that the youth should balance the needs of the 3H, the heart, the hand, and the head. Now, with regard to the promises that politicians during this period of campaign would want to give, he intimated to us that there will be three major aspects of the new educational policy that they want to work. And in that regard, they seek, if they are elected, if Ghanaian electorate gives them the nod, they would emphasize, with regard to the education sector, they would emphasize access to education, the quality of education, and equity. And I think equity also speaks to access and promotes access. And then remove, once and for all in the history of Ghana, schools under trees. Enhance and continue with the community day schools. He seeks that they intend to revise it in a manner as to promote the access to education. In that regard, immediately they would send into the graveyard the double track system. That would be the first to be, whose requiem mass will be celebrated if they are given the nod. TVET was mentioned. And then lastly, and for me, the most important was the issue of unemployment, which affects our youth, that they would deal with it drastically by promoting the 24-hour economy, by establishing a separate standalone Ministry of Youth Development, and also promoting agriculture and agro-industrial, creating agro-industrial business zone. And I think he spiced it. He spiced it with the phrase, making agriculture sexy and cool, which I think generated a lot of interest among our youth. In conclusion, His Excellency mentioned that indeed all is not doom and gloom, that despite the economic hardship in the country, the NDC promises a new dawn is on the horizon. On this note, I think on behalf of the Wisconsin management, on behalf of the Wisconsin School of Communication Studies, and on my own behalf, we want to say thank you very much, His Excellency.
I now call on Mr. Nuruddin Mohammed, our Director of Public Affairs and Marketing, to give us the final vote of thanks, after which we'll take a closing prayer and a few pictures.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Thank you. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocols to first of all say that we are sincerely, it is with great sincere gratitude that I, Nuruddin Mohammed, on behalf of the Wisconsin International University College, extend our heartfelt appreciation to His Excellency, the former President John Dramani Mahama, and of course, the running mate, Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman, for gracing us with your insightful lecture. Your presence has profoundly enriched our intellectual pursuit and inspired us to pursue excellence. Furthermore, I wish to express profound gratitude to the council, led by our council chairman, Justice Isaac Dosey, management of the university. I still see our registrar here, our professor, the vice chancellor, and the entire management and dean and HODs and all of you. We want to thank you for making time to be here with us. We extend our gratitude to faculty members, civil society organizations, and students for your time. A special acknowledgement is due to the School of Communication Studies for spearheading this initiative. Of course, not without its collaborators, my unit, the Public Affairs and Marketing, the IT department. Edwin, we want to say a big thank you to you, the Chief Operations Office, and the Estate Department. Your contributions have really been helpful. Your collective supports have been indispensable in ensuring the success of this event. I would like to extend a special recognition to Professor Kwame Karakari, Ms. Baba Kofi, who is the acting dean of the School of Communication Studies, for your exceptional dedication and meticulous organization. We cannot forget our volunteers. Wherever you are, we say a big thank you to you for your support. I'd also want to extend our gratitude to the media, especially GBC, for carrying this program live and ensuring that His Excellency's lecture reaches a wider audience. We also appreciate all the other media houses who are here to give us coverage. Finally, let me extend our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Obim Miraku, our Vice Chancellor, our President, and esteemed chairman of this occasion, for gracing us with wisdom, guidance, and presence. Sir, we want to say a big thank you. And once again, to all of us here, thank you for your participation and support. Let's remain steadfast in our collective effort to advance the knowledge and contribution to the betterment of our nation. Once again, thank you. We wish you a safe journey back home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nuruddin. We started with a prayer and we will end with a prayer. My colleague, Reverend Nulav Anand, who is a lecturer at the music school, the music department, will give us the closing prayer.
Shall we rise and pray? We are praying. We truly give thanks for the glorious experience we've shared this day in this remarkable institution, the Wisconsin International University. We pray now, O Lord, for your blessing upon thy servant, President John Dramani Mahama, the fourth president of our republic and the presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress for our upcoming elections. Lord, we pray for his family and his team. He is taking up this mantle in such a difficult time in the national and indeed the global fiscal climate. But because we know that history is also your story, we pray for your guidance and protection in all that this whole process will lead to. Lord, you have shown us that you are able and willing to work through faithful leadership to restore stability, mend our brokenness, heal our wounds, and deliver us from the exploitation of the poor or the least of these, and from favoritism towards the rich, the elite of these. And now, Lord, in the complex arena of politics and even more dangerous religious and tribal differences, help us to stay and to make choices on the path of love, not hate, on the side of inclusion, not exclusion, tolerance, not intolerance. And as we leave this memorable meeting, help us to hold on to the spirit of fellowship and the oneness of our family as a people. Let us take any good information we have received back to our homes, our workplaces, our churches, our mosques, and our communities. Bless our speaker, Mr. President. Bless our chancellor, staff, and students of this remarkable institution. Help us then now, O Lord, to work for that day when no citizen of this nation shall lift up hands or scream against another on the account of politics. When anger will be turned into objectivity. When no man, woman, youth, or child shall not be afraid. When justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Lord, finally, in the memory of all our ancestors who from their labor rest, and in the joy of the great things that we are about to experience in this country, we ask that you help us to work for that day when the northerner will not be asked to go further north, when the southerner will not be asked to go further south, the easterner further east, the westerner further west, and the centrals not to be intimidated. Help us to embrace each other in love for the good of this nation. Let all those who do justice and love mercy say amen. Amen. And amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take our seats briefly. We'll take a group picture. We'll respectfully ask His Excellency and Professor Jainana Opoku-Agyeman to come up to the stage. And he will be joined by our council chair, our president, registrar, Professor Kakari, and Acting Dean, School of Communication Studies. If you can please come up. Yes, please. Your Excellency, if you can walk to this side and climb up.
Yeah!